You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hey folks, Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Our latest things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. 16 years and 2,500 episodes. We've been bringing you the Chris Voss Show because, we were just sitting around and we were like, we should find something to do to uplift the world, to make the world better. Get people to share their stories, their lessons of life, their cathartic moments they overcame, and share those stories with everyone else. Because, as we like to say on the show, stories are the owner's manual to life. Because I never got my official copy in the mail, and pretty sure, from what I hear, no one else did either. Anyway, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, and Facebook.com/Chris Voss. Today, we have an amazing young gentleman on the show. We're going to be talking about his hot book called Fully Human, Fully Alive, a Human Model. And it was out July 1st, 2024 by Lyle Simpson. He's going to be joining us in the show, and we'll get into it with him. Welcome to the show, Lyle. How are you?
Hello there.
Hello.
Here.
Pleased to have you as well. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
Here's the book that I'm talking about that I've written. I've spent about 60 years working on it.
Wow. And Lyle, can you give us your .coms so people can find you and look you up on the internet? I think you're having yours redone right now.
Well, I'll be 88 in a month, but I've been an attorney now for 62 years. My undergraduate work was in psychology and philosophy, and I've been studying that subject for many, many years. I've spent 50 years as an officer of the American Humanist Association, and there's most people that are humanists who think for themselves are some pretty significant people. My successor as national president of that organization was Isaac Asimov, who published 480 books. Carl Sagan, the astronomer that created the Cosmos series, Bill Nye the Science Guy. These are all humanists that I know personally.
So do you identify as a humanist? Is that your what? And then if you do, what is a humanist? Lay a foundation for us on what that is.
I do start out in the book explaining this, but it has to do with the Epicurean philosophy that's 22,600 years old, I think. And it was named humanism in 1917, and it's been known by that ever since. But humanism is a philosophy. These are people who think for themselves and test their truth of anything that they accept. You put your religion on top of it so it doesn't conflict with any religion. They're humanists in all faith groups. But it's people that are trying to make the most out of their own individual life some way or another.
Okay. How does let me ask you this. I'm not sure how familiar you are with AI, but how important is humanism, given in this age where AI seems to be emerging as a new species that might compete with us as human?
Well, I don't even know how to answer that.
It is kind of one of those big questions that's which came first, the chicken or the eggs. So in your book, you talk about several things. You talk about how Maslow discovered that humans live on one of 6 different psychological levels, and 70% of all Americans are locked in the 3rd social level, never realizing there are 3 levels above them. Talk to us about what that is and how that applies to humanism.
Well, in the first place, what psychology started with Sigmund Freud, who took people that had bad behavior and with psychological training tried to bring them into mainstream society. So it started out kind of as a negative science. And then the behaviors came along when Pavlov taught his dog to salivate when he rang a bell, even if food wasn't present, which means behavior can be controlled. And so that started a whole field of behaviorists. And what behaviorists say is that all behavior creates because of need deprivation. Maslow was trying to figure out why two of his professors were such beautiful people. What's their need deprivation that causes that? And all of a sudden he realized maybe we've got this whole subject backwards. These are normal people, and to the extent you have need deprivation, you get abnormal, clear down to the people that Freud was dealing with.
Uh-huh.
And so he started studying needs. And what he discovered is that the drive strength of needs can be categorized. And he discovered there were 6 different levels. And that the need below is the strongest need, and it'll control your behavior over everything above that. Your basic needs are food, water, shelter, and warmth. If you really got to go to the bathroom, nothing else is important.
Yeah, that's true.
And then once your basic needs are satisfied, you go to the security level to build a framework that allows you to make sure you can satisfy your basic needs forever. Once you're secure, you then bring other people within your defense mechanism on the social level and share life with them. But basic needs and security needs control your behavior. But once you're at the social level, you could go beyond that, but only 30% of our society today can live on a higher level.
How much? 30%?
Only 30% get beyond the social level.
Oh, really? Wow.
And that's because many of our beliefs, once you have a belief, it can become what's called a scotoma. And what a scotoma is, it acts like the spam blocker in a computer. Some of those beliefs are good. You know, if you've got a spouse, a wife, or a husband, you don't want anybody else to be more important than that person. So that belief is a good one. But on the other hand, a lot of those are dangerous or block you from seeing things that are more important. And so what my book does, it doesn't mean those beliefs will go away or you'll lose those beliefs, but what it does mean is that you can build a bridge over it or a barrier over your barrier or a detour around it so that that belief doesn't keep you from seeing what's above it.
And so what are the 3 levels above what most Americans don't get to? Because I'm trying to get above the first one.
The 4th level is really self-awareness.
My favorite, self-awareness.
It's so that you really know yourself as an individual. And 30% can get there, but 6% then get to the actualized level where all of their needs are totally satisfied. And why that's important, selfishness declines at the same rate. So somewhere on the actualized level, selfishness goes away. And what that does is it opens a new door for you where you can become fully alive on the 6th level, because then you can do things for others that make a difference in the world without any selfish need being satisfied. And that changes your whole dynamic and makes your life fully worthwhile. And what that does for you, to the extent you leave the world a better place because you've been here, that creates a form of immortality we can be certain really does exist. And so understanding these levels and how they work is critical for you to be able to get to a point where you can become fully alive.
Yeah. I mean, let me ask you this. There's some people that say that even being charitable is a selfish act because I'm doing it to make myself feel good. And I mean, when I'm charitable, I do feel good. It is a bit self-serving, in a way. Is that because I haven't ascended fully all the levels, or is that true in your mind?
It's clearly true. If you're living on the 4th level of self-awareness, you'll do things for others, but you're clearly doing it for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
If you get to the 6th level, the things you're doing, there's no selfish component to it. You generally don't even want people to know who you are.
Okay. So like a Secret Santa might be a good. I know there was somebody I really respected that I remember reading about years ago, and for like 20 or 30 years, yeah, I think it was in Cincinnati. He'd been what he called the Secret Santa, and he would go around Christmas, and he had some wealth, and he would pass out $100 bills, $20 bills. He would go to like laundromats and places where people that obviously aren't on the higher chain of the economic levels, and he would target poor areas, and he would go hand out money and tell people to pay it forward and stuff like that. I just interviewed one guy last year that here in my local community. He drives a every Christmas he drives a sleigh truck around that's got Santa sitting in it, and it's all decked out with lights, and thankfully they're red and blue, and thankfully the police officers let him give him a pass on having these lights in his car driving around. But he gives out candy canes to people, and I don't think he gives out money. I think he just gives out candy canes and cheer, tells people to have a Merry Christmas. And I've always admired people that can do that. There's something gracious about the human spirit when we engage that way.
Well, there's really only about 1% of our society that actually get to the fully alive level.
Mhm.
A lot of the people like you're talking about are doing this on the ego level because they get recognition for it.
Yeah.
But I can give you a number of examples of things that are on the actualized level or above. Uh,
Please do.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, could you give us a few of those? I'd love to hear them because I'm working on. I mean, I'm just trying to get past the first level.
Okay. Well, I'll give you an example of my grandson who, as a freshman at Drake University, went on a 3-week study program abroad with 20 other students and 3 professors. And the professors took him to Uganda, to a rural community of 30,000 people that had never seen white people before, let alone Americans.
Mhm.
And it turns out one of the professors was from there. But anyway, what he discovered, these people were very caring and very giving. They had very little money. And this guy, he was told about, had taken his wife and to the nearest medical clinic, which is a 3-day journey. But when he got there, he didn't have the equivalent of $5 to pay for the delivery kit, so they refused to deliver the baby. So he had to try and deliver his own baby on the side of the road, and the baby and mother both died.
Oh no.
Well, that was more than my grandson could handle. He says, I'm going to spend the rest of my life seeing that these people get their own medical clinic. When he made that decision, of the 20 students, 6 of them agreed to help. The 3
Mhm.
professors couldn't dodge the bullet, so they had to help too.
Mhm.
But anyway, my grandson agreed he'd raise the money if the other students would figure out all the rest of their needs. He comes back in his sophomore year and raises the money. They break the ground, and there's a lot more to the story, but I'll make it shorter. Anyway, the clinic opened. The next year, one of the professors went back and checked it on, and there was this little 2-month-old baby living in a crib with an IV drip. She had both pneumonia and malaria. That child typically would simply die. That
Well,
little child opened her eyes and she looked up at this professor, and that made it all worthwhile. Well, that little child's 10 years old today and still living because my grandson made the decision he was going to see these people get a medical clinic.
mhm.
I'll never know my grandson's name. That isn't important to him. But think what that does to create an immortality for my grandson that'll live on forever.
Mhm. There you go. And that immortality is why we remember them and why we value them, and I mean, there's people that we've known that were that contributed to society, that built libraries for us and all sorts of different things. Now, one of the other things you talk about is the drive strength of the levels are twice that of the level above which explains that is their beliefs that are holding them back. What does that statement refer to?
Well, there's 1,000 different reasons. It's all for each individual, but I'll just use one as an example because I do this in my book. Religion, there are people that tell you that they've got the key to heaven, and if you don't follow their requirement, you get to go to hell.
I've seen those people. I've heard from them.
Well, that fear alone is sufficient to cause enough drive strength to lock you on the social level because you're so busy trying to get to heaven, you're not thinking of anything else. And it's kind of sad, but I do go into that in some detail just because that's such a prevalent problem. And if you understand how one problem can cause that kind of behavior change, you can apply it to yourself and find what's really blocking your ability to get beyond that. I can't address all 1,000 of the different reasons I can think why that happens, but I can use enough that are generally known by society so that you can see what I'm talking about. And it's very important that if somebody tells you that this is true and you don't agree, and you get belligerent, really, you get angry,
triggered,
that's telling you've got a scotoma there.
Yeah.
And so you can't see your own scotomas, but that's pretty good evidence that that's exactly what it is.
There you go.
And so
why is it that when we accept a belief, it develops into a scotoma and acts like a spam blocker, allowing us to see anything that might conflict, especially if it's real? Like I grew up wondering why people believe the things they believed. Like it's amazing. You can adopt one belief where you can just say, let's just pick something wild, like the earth is shaped like a triangle. It's not round, it's not flat, people, it's a triangle. Everybody knows that. Sounds like something I know. But
the world's flat, and if you get to the edge, you're going to fall off.
Yeah, I mean, people build whole cults over this thing. So someone's going to build a triangle Earth cult now that I brought it up. But so I've always been amazed how people can take that one belief, they lock in on that one thing, and then they can build that, like what you talk about, this scotoma, this belief system that supports it, even though it's operating its own private Idaho, basically, is what I say. So talk to us about that. How does that turn into these scotomas and we can't see outer data?
Well, there's some advantage to scotomas. You get bombarded with thousands of different challenges, I guess is the right word, on a daily basis, and you can't solve all of them. And so you got to have some system within your body to classify so that those things that you can get by without, you do. Otherwise, you couldn't function. You'd be wandering all over the place doing everything.
That makes sense. I understand that there's kind of it can be good and bad. It's one of those good and bad things that we all, good or evil sort of things.
Well, you want to love your wife and your children, and you want to take care of them, and so that's a good scotoma to have.
Yeah. Good focus to have on that. I'm going to write that down because I'm going to start doing that. Loving the wife and kids. So there you go. Now, one of the things you talk about in your book is you're trying to help readers find bridges over or detours around their scotomas so they can rise above their control. You mentioned one thing I always use as a notification device for me, that when I feel emotionally triggered over something that someone says to me, I have to realize that maybe there is a scotoma, maybe there is a blind spot, maybe it's reality challenging my delusional belief that I've accepted, and then I have to go, maybe I should look into that, because maybe it's me. Maybe it's not the outer data that's conflicting. Maybe it's reality knocking on the door, going, "Hello, reality here. We'd like to talk to you about our Lord and Savior, logic and reason. Reality."
The whole reason for a college education is so that you can build bridges over where you've gone through your childhood, so you can
Yeah.
expand your knowledge. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what education's for. But we all have scotomas. You couldn't function. That's how you sort out information.
Mm. And I mean, I imagine I hear you would go crazy if you didn't have scotomas. You would basically be in information overload and overwhelm, and you're trying to figure out what to do with it. Maybe it would just be madness. Maybe.
Well, I discuss this to some degree. This is really what makes a humanist. It's how you determine what is true.
Mm-hmm.
And I use 4 different examples. Uh, Socrates had a way of determining what was true. He'd take 2 opposing ideas and realize the truth's got to be somewhere in between. Well, the only way we use that to determine truth today is the jury system in a courtroom. No humanist would use that as a means of determining their own truth. And then there's authorities. Now, a humanist will accept an authority to meet a particular need temporarily, but they won't lock on to the authority. And yet there are people, and I don't mean to pick on any religion, but there are priests and there are people out there that say, this is the truth and you follow me and don't worry about anything else and I'll make your decisions for you. And John Shelby Spong, who was an Episcopal priest in New Jersey, actually, goes through the entire system within religion to show how this works and did a beautiful job of it. But if a humanist would test anything to determine what's true for themselves. And if it doesn't pass the test, they may accept that as a momentary solution to a problem, but they won't rely on that going into the future.
Mm-hmm.
The 4th way of determining truth, as opposed to self-testing, is with science, because science constantly is testing truth. And so if science says something is true, it probably is. And so a humanist is more apt to accept science as their means of determining truth than a particular authority.
Now with that using science, the one aspect of science is it's never a final determination. It's an ongoing development or exploration. I may not have the right words here, but it's an ongoing thesis, right? And so one of the great things about science is it doesn't lock in like a scotoma so much. It doesn't try to blind spot itself. It tries to identify those blind spots by peer review and different things like that. And then it's never really, to my understanding, it's the great thing about science. It's never really locked into any certain place. It's constantly evolving and growing and learning more and trying to get beyond that Dunning-Kruger sort of effect of, the people who have little knowledge on things think they know everything, and people that are mastering something realize how little they know and how vast it is, the amount they need to learn. What are your thoughts on that?
Einstein was only determined to be telling the truth after 100 years.
Yeah, same thing with Newton and gravity. Didn't they threaten to kill Newton over the gravity thing or one of those things?
In terms of science. But the point is, you're right, science is constantly evolving, and what we believe is the truth today in science may not be tomorrow. But you've got an open mind to accept the changes. And you got to live the moment with the best knowledge that you possibly can have. And that's one means of humanists determining truth. Even your own doctor, you may accept what this doctor is telling you, but say he suggests you need surgery. A humanist would say, okay, but they may go get a second opinion, and because they can't know everything. But on the other hand, they don't rely on a single doctor's opinion. People, security levels needs, for instance, religion is a security mid-social level, need, very strong. It guides the life of most people, but it also causes some of the biggest problems. And if you're willing to test what it is you're told, that at least it doesn't control you to the point where it can ruin your life.
Yeah.
Unitarians, for instance, they never tell you what a truth is. They only tell you what the problems are and make you think your way through it. That's kind of a novel approach.
Yeah. Now, for humanists, do humanists believe in a higher power? Do they believe in normal religion and gods, or they just believe in humans? I'm kind of curious.
Oh, no. Well, don't believe anything. I mean, there are religions within all faith groups. You put your religion on top of it. It's not an attempt to tell you what you have to believe. It's an attempt to tell you how you determine what you want to believe.
There you go. How you determine how you want to be.
Well, you test with the experiences that you've had in the past, or you study the subject, or whatever it might take for you to gain the information, because you can't know everything. You determine who's the authority you're going to accept at this moment for that, but you leave yourself open to change your mind if further information comes along in the future.
There you go. What a crazy thing, man. So, and do we need to constantly be questioning our data? How do I need to accept? I don't know if you studied the Dunning-Kruger effect, and does that work into some of the stuff you wrote about in the book and talked about?
I didn't quite get the question.
Did you have you heard about the Dunning and Kruger effect? And does that apply to some of the stuff you talk about in the book?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Have you heard about the Dunning-Kruger effect?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. Dunning-Kruger effect is basically, let me pull it up so I get it right. I don't want to be making stuff up here. Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias where people with low competence in particular areas overestimate their own abilities and knowledge, while highly competent individuals may underestimate theirs. Basically, the less a person knows, the more ignorant they are on a subject, the many times they overestimate their own knowledge. We see a lot of that today in politics and other things. And then highly competent individuals will underestimate their value and realize that, mastering any given thing takes, 10,000 hours of application, or however you want to call it. And so that kind of deals with cognitive bias, because if we live in the scotoma, we're the smartest people they know. Like I flunked algebra. If I were to start saying, well, I was in an algebra class, so I know everything there is to know about algebra, you would be like, you probably don't, because you flunked algebra. So there's that. What else in your book haven't we explored or teased out to people to get them to pick it up?
Where do I begin?
Yeah.
I go through quite a bit of psychology in the book, because psychology is the study of behavior, and that's my background, and so I understand that a little better than many other things. But I also point out that we're all built differently. You get into Myers-Briggs psychology, for instance.
Yeah.
And what you find is that there's 4 totally different ways that people have of processing truth. And David Kiersey wrote a book on this subject, on Myers-Briggs psychology. It gives a pretty good, it's not a test, it's do you believe this or do you believe that? There's no right or wrong. And you go through about 75 questions, you get all done with that. He's got about 6 pages in there that totally describes you that you'd think he was your brother or your next door neighbor that knows you that well. And my wife and I wouldn't be together today if we hadn't found that book. It cost me $17, but it saved my marriage.
Did it really? That's amazing. Do you want to tease that story out a little bit?
It found out that I'm an idealist. Less than 10% of society think like I do. Mm-hmm. And what Kiersey points out is that most people have a modifier of one of the other characteristics with them, but I don't have any modifier. It's only 1% of society looks at reality like I do. Mm. My wife, on the other hand, is a rationalist, and rationalist is only 6%. So she thinks exactly opposite of me. So we went to a store to buy a birthday card for somebody. I find a card I like with a message I like, and I want to get out of there. She won't buy that card till she looks at every other card to determine that that one's really the best. Mm. We got into a fight right in the middle of the crowd. So we went to a therapist, and they told us about Myers-Briggs and saved our marriage. But
awesome.
Then there's the Guardians, which are the largest number, about 45%. And they want to keep everybody within the box. And they're good at organizing things, but they always have to have a lot of recognition for what they do. It turns out I had relationships in the past with people that were guardians, and I didn't give them enough recognition. And then you've got artisans who think totally outside of the box. Well, all of them have a different way of processing information. Well, now that I understand that, it's enlarged my scope of being able to deal with a lot more people effectively. And but anyway, so the book goes into some things like that. There's a lot of others. Because what it's trying to do is help you guide yourself through life so you understand who you are and what you do, what you think, and why you think that way, and how you can get beyond that by giving you examples that help you build bridges over your barriers. It's not trying to say you got to go leave a belief. It just means you got to amplify your ability to see more than that belief.
Definitely. Amplify your ability. And, one of the things I always work on, this is something that not only is important in your life, but in business. So in business, I learned about scotomas early on. I believe it was from Anthony Robbins in the 90s. I went to one of his very early events he was having in 92 or 93. Just look at my ticket to this day. It's kind of funny. I kept it all these years. But he really impacted me in talking about scotomas and blind spots. And so over business, one of the things you can have, especially as an entrepreneur, are blind spots. And so I would constantly sit down with my staff when we innovated ideas or brought in new systems. And I would be like, and I would ask them, I'd be like, okay, here's the concept or the idea of what we're doing here. What am I not seeing that might be wrong with this model? Where are my blind spots? Where are my scotomas? And somebody will chime in and be like, oh, did you know that if you do this, then that's going to happen? And that's going to cause a chain reaction to over here. And maybe you haven't seen the whole big picture, or they'll be like, here's the flaw in that idea that could collapse everything. And so I've kind of learned that this is an application not only for life, but for business, to challenge my scotomas, to question my belief systems constantly, to value test them or strength test them, I guess, by trying to think about two opposing ideas outside the box. And so constantly in business, the ideas I come up with, the innovations I come up with, new businesses, I'm constantly looking at them going, am I operating in reality? Am I seeing everything I need to see? Do I see the blind spots and scotomas? We used to call it looking the dragon in the mouth. And we'd sit down, and if we had to spend like a lot of money, like, okay, we got to buy this computer system for 20 grand. Okay, this is a lot of money because we're a growing company. And, I remember us having this meeting over $4,000 copier. And it depended where we were on the level of business, but I would sit down and be like, okay, we're going to spend this money. Can we live with the downside if this doesn't pay off as being the innovation that we need or the things that we need to make business? So a lot of this stuff not only can be used in your life, in operations of what you do day to day with your personal life, but also it's really important for business people, CEOs, entrepreneurs, just about anyone in business. What are my blind spots? How am I operating in reality? Would you agree?
You better watch it. You might be a humanist.
Wow. Yeah, I've been accused of worse, though, usually in four-letter expletives, but that's another story. So
I've been an attorney for 62 years. And the first 5 years, I loved the chess game in the courtroom, but I woke up and realized, but I feel guilty making someone else lose. Now, who in the heck's going to want to hire a lawyer who's going to feel guilty winning for you?
That's kind of bad, yeah.
So what am I going to do? Well, I decided what I really want to do is help people be successful at whatever they want to do.
Oh.
And so I heard the Internal Revenue Service had a statistic that said that 80% of all new businesses fail in the first 3 years.
Wow.
I thought, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
maybe I could help there. And I had a client tell me one time, we're all born with 10 columns and 100 marbles. They just distribute different for different people. So some of your columns are really full. Some of your columns are missing a few. The reason why larger organizations have an outside board of directors is so that the weakness of the leader doesn't become the institutional weakness.
Oh.
But smaller businesses can't afford a board of directors. So I thought, I'm going to fill that role. So I started studying what causes failure. And today, I've represented over 1,000 different entities one way or another. And I lose maybe 16, 17% because it really was a dumb idea or you don't listen. But there's a big spread between that and 80%. And so I think I've added value for people. And 5 of my clients are now world leaders in what they do, 3 of which we actually started in a garage. But anyway, so I can sleep nights and I feel that I am helping society, keeping these people successful.
There you go. So as we go out, what do you hope people come away with in the book, and give people a pitch out to order up your book wherever fine books are sold?
What now?
So give people a final pitch out on your book to pick it up, final thoughts, and all that good stuff.
The book is 320 pages, but you'll certainly know the subject fully if you get through it, and it'll give you a lot to think about, and it will help you regardless of what point you drop off, but it'll help you have a much better life because you've been here, and that's my goal.
There you go. There you go. And it's a worthy goal as well. Your website is lylesimpson.com. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, it's getting reinstated. I didn't realize that when you created a website, you bought it only for a short period of time.
Oh, yeah.
And so all of a sudden I couldn't get in there anymore. So they told me, well, did you pay your dues? Well, no, I didn't know I had to.
You got to pay the dues. Got to pay the man. So
I'm taking care of that. But
okay.
It would help people if they went in there, and it would at least give them a much better idea what my book's about.
Can people hire you to consult or coach on the aspects of your book off your website when it's up?
Well, I would give them free help any way I could, but
okay.
I give a third of my time to society one way or another, just because I think that's the right thing to do. And in fact, my website, one of my publishers put my whole resume in there. That's 19 pages. I didn't want the public to know all that.
That's a hell of a resume. There you go. So people can watch for your website. This will be published in about 3 to 5, 7 days probably. So I think hopefully your website will be up by that time. We'll put a link to the website on the Chris Voss Show, so you can take it there. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Lyle. We really appreciate it. It's been wonderful to have you and very insightful.
Well, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity and wish you well in what you're doing, because you doing a lot to keep the public informed of all kinds of subjects.
We're trying to lift like you're trying to lift and give back. Thank you very much, Lyle. Thanks, our audience, for tuning in. Order up Lyle's book wherever fine books are sold. It is entitled Fully Human, Fully Alive, A Human Model, and it's out on paperback July 1st, 2024. Thanks to my audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.